Leaders, water plants. Sometimes keeping your houseplant alive is hard. Sometimes it's really easy. In many cases, you'll need to do your research and learn about that plant. How much water does it need? How much light? Does it need extra nutrients? And once you know all this, it's just a matter of doing it all the time. Not once or twice, but every day. And then, without doubt, you'll have a thriving plant. But, with apologies to any of you budding green thumbs out there, this message is not about botany. In many ways, our jobs are just like watering a plant that our employer gives us. If your leaders are any good, they'll be pretty clear on the instructions to keep that thing alive. In the corporate world, this will generally come in the form of position descriptions, performance reviews, catch-ups, mission statements. And so each workday, we water that plant so that it may thrive. And if it doesn't, or worse, it dies, then that probably means we're not going to be in that job very long. It's a pretty safe bet now that so far, everything sounds pretty familiar to you. But sadly, for many, the next part might come across as a lot more foreign. While our employers have their plants that need your care, every one of us have our own plants too, and they're much the same as those ones that our organizations are so eager to bring to our awareness. The instructions for care will undoubtedly be very different, but they still need the same care and attention to thrive. Unfortunately, this other side of the equation is largely unknown to the corporate world, and yes, even to us, the owners of those plants. We approach our workday with a very one-sided view, almost entirely focused on the plants that we're paid to water. And anyone would be forgiven for thinking this way because, after all, we are being paid to water those plants. But the problem for businesses is you can't acquire loyal customers without loyal employees. And why would any employee be loyal in such a lopsided relationship? If someone is deemed unsuitable for a role if the plant for which they're responsible dies, then of course the reverse has to also be true. Companies and leaders that are delinquent in their responsibility for their people will have leaves shriveling all over the office. The real-life manifestation of this is staff turnover, as the most confident, most talented members of an uncaring organization will be quick to act as they notice that soil in their pot starting to dry out. Those that don't quite feel the same level of confidence might stick around for a while longer, maybe even a few years longer, but that in itself is also not a positive result. Frustrated by the lack of attention placed on them and their needs, this group will become disengaged, frustrated, even toxic to others, and deliver significantly less value than they previously did. So, as a leader, you need to be real with yourself next time you receive a resignation letter or you notice the performance of your people in decline. You need to ask, how healthy are their plants? Book in some time to get the instructions for how to water those plants. Ask them questions like, what are you best at? What are you most proud of? What are your career goals? What do you want to get out of this job? What do you want to learn from working with me or your team or other leaders in the business? With all the information that can come from these conversations, both the leader and the individual become empowered. You can now devise a plan to ensure that their interests and their needs are catered for as well, and not just those of the company. Now, it is important to note that sometimes it will be really easy to give a staff member what they need. Other times, it's going to be a challenge and you might have to job craft a little bit. But then there will also be times when you simply cannot help them. In those times, it's important to recognize that this job may not be the right fit for them, and maybe that a change is necessary. And even in those circumstances though, that individual is much more likely to leave with less disappointment and much less bitterness. Now that you have these watering instructions, you have to use them, and you have to live and breathe them, just like you do with your company's plan. Not once or twice, but all the time. with consistency. Like everything in leadership, this is not easy. But if you operate with a genuine leadership mindset, you will by default be a better leader for your people. Remember, being a leader is not a job title, nor a destination. It's a mindset and a way of life. So go on now. Be a leader.